Welcome to I Drink Your podcast.
Oh gosh, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You leave me no choice. Here comes the smolder.
Wait, you like that?
No,
you don't like that?
No, I don't like that.
No, how about that? You like that?
A little better.
Bread makes you fat?
Does this count as annoying?
Just tell me what you want me to fuck!
Not you, and not you.
Okay, I think it's time to take off your clothes and jump me.
$1 million isn't cool. You know what's cool?
I drink your podcast! I drink it up!
Welcome to I Drink Your podcast, where we're talking movies from 2010. I'm Emily, and before I introduce the rest of my team, I want to just quick plug for those Spotify and Apple podcast ratings, because you love us, we love you, so show us that love. We have Ben, as always, here.
Always here.
Forever, until you're not.
For better or worse.
Dylan is here as well.
I'm here a third of the time.
Yeah. And then we have a lovely guest from Book Retorts, Danielle. Welcome, Danielle.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Very excited.
And, she's back again. I don't know why she tolerates us with the weird choices we have for her, but I'm happy that you come back.
I was watching this movie. I was like, why is it always such a weird movie?
Before we jump into this weird movie, let's start with what's in your glass. Emily, what do you got for us today?
Grog.
Oh, okay.
No reason.
Boo.
Come on. Okay. No reason is the best way to drink anything.
I don't even know what grog is.
That's a good question. I
didn't ask a question. It was a statement.
Fine. Fuck you.
What's grog?
Not telling you because I don't know.
That's a
Look
question.
It up.
Okay. Well, Dylan, what do you got today?
Well, for a simple villain, I'm drinking Simpler Wines. It's a little wine spritzer in a like a Red Bull type can. So, simple movie, simple cocktail.
Just because Dylan said a simple villain, I just want Ben to come up with an argument for it being the most complex villain in history. Just because of that.
I'll come up with something. This villain is definitely not a simple villain, and we'll get into that. There's layers to this movie, let me tell you.
See, I love causing all sorts of fighting between the two of you.
Goddamn rabble rouser.
Danielle, what do you got today?
Well, I decided to go with a classic. That's water.
Yes.
In honor of the the desert scenery and also the shower scene where he finally gets to wash off some of those blood and guts.
It's also his drink of choice. It's
Absolutely.
Robert the Tire's drink of choice. He dove into that puddle and took a big gulp.
Is that what was happening?
Yeah, he was drinking. There was even the noise of him sucking up water.
Okay. So many more questions now. What about you, Ben?
I went with a simple beer today. New Belgium makes something called a fat tire, so I went with that.
Very smart.
What movie did we watch this week, Emily?
As you can tell from our beverages, we are talking about Rubber, the horror comedy special from 2010, and it can be streamed for free on Vudu and Tubi with ads, which is what I did this time around.
Me too.
Same here.
Weird to watch things with ads. Not used to it.
How was the ad situation on Tubi?
It wasn't bad. It was pretty short. I had honestly just paid attention to my phone during the ads.
I did too.
It's about 60 to 90 seconds, not too shabby. Enough to check a couple of emails.
Vudu only had like 40 seconds of ads, but the first one kicked in like 7 minutes in, and I was like, whoa, it's a little early. Ads, give me some time.
Dang.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Danielle, I know Sam, your co-host, wasn't able to join you this time, and that's okay. But we would still love an update from Book Retorts.
Sure. We're in the middle of a saga as Sam recaps the entire series of Hyperion, which is a sci-fi novel. Well, 4 novels. I don't know how many novels are in Hyperion. To be honest, I don't even know what's going on in Hyperion. We're like 3 episodes into it, and it's insanity. So I would highly recommend tuning in for that. It's every other week, so Sam gets a break, and then I intersperse my nonsense in between. So it's been a ride.
Danielle nonsense is the best sort of nonsense.
Well, thank you.
We also want to know something wonderful you've watched recently because, you know, Dylan's got kids, Ben has a kid. I am on summertime teacher mode, so like I got all the time in the world. Give me all the things. What have you been watching recently that you'd recommend?
I've been reading a lot, so I haven't been watching as much TV as usual.
We'll take a book.
I'll take a book.
I'll take a book. Gosh, stress. You don't know. The last book I read was for the podcast. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend that one, so that's terrible.
How about this? What's like an author, like a top author for you, and like one of your favorite books by that author?
I mean, I swing towards young adult, and I would always recommend Tamara Pierce. Just amazing. Anything by that author is amazing. So that's definitely something I go back to semi-frequently.
Do you prefer Alana or I can't remember her other characters' names?
There's Protector of the Small and Wild Magic and Alana series, and I personally like Protector of the Small, but I'm definitely a big fan of the others as well.
God, this is why I love you, Danielle.
So I don't know if you're, that's a great question, Dylan, and I would guess I would throw that back if anybody's into some young adult fantasy, kick butt women. So,
well, we didn't see many kick butt women in this movie, but we saw kick butt something. And we watched Rubber, which is at 68% on Rotten Tomatoes and made next to no money at the box office. But it was nominated for Best Independent Film at the Scream Awards and received the Most Original Film Award from the Toronto After Dark Film Festival.
What are the Scream Awards? Is that scary movies?
I think the Scream are mostly fantasy and horror movies that they tend to give awards to.
Okay. I'm just learning all of these fancy award things.
And this movie is a very low-budget film, directed, written, edited, shot, and composed by Quentin Dupieux, who also directed the film Non-Film, which is a comedy about an on-set shooting of a movie. Like, the crew gets shot on the movie. And then the movie Steak, which, if I read the plot synopsis correctly, is a school shooting comedy.
Oh, geez.
No.
So take that for what it is.
Comedy fantasy. Okay, 59%.
I mean, comedy fantasy is what we got in this movie, and we're not going to call out any of the actors in this movie other than Robert the Tire.
This is what our killer looks like.
Tire.
Exactly. I give you an hour to find him. Can't have gotten far. If you have any questions, it's now or never.
What brand of tire?
We don't know yet. Probably brandless.
Is it worn?
Yes.
Is it black?
Emily had not seen this movie.
No.
Emily, you knew it was a horror movie, and you knew it was called Rubber. And I think you knew it took place in the desert, right?
You might have told me, but I totally forgot about that.
Okay.
And so I kind of was thinking I can go condoms, I can go erasers, or I can go rubber trees coming to life and defeating all the people in the world. So I went with rubber erasers.
Seriously.
Seriously. So we open on a cloudy British highway. A truck blows by, spraying water as it splashes through puddles. After hitting a large pothole, the door knocks ajar and a wave of pink falls out the road. It's rubbers, which is the British word for erasers, you degenerates. A massive amount of rubbers are about to erase the mistakes of the world. Humans! They move like a school of fish, adapting and moving to make different shapes to get around the world, just like in Finding Nemo. How will our heroes escape being deleted from existence? They won't. I don't think.
Wow.
That's not that far from the plot of
the
actual movie.
But also, this is the first movie that's come close to being as wacky as your synopsis.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Let's kick it to Dylan to hear the DVD cover synopsis for this one.
Oh, and it's a beauty, too. Rubber is the story of Robert, an inanimate tire that has been abandoned in the desert and then suddenly and inexplicably comes to life. As Robert roams the bleak landscape, he discovers that he possesses terrifying telepathic powers that give him the ability to destroy anything that he wishes. At first content to prey on discarded objects and small desert creatures, his attention soon turns to humans, especially a beautiful and mysterious woman who crosses his path. Leaving a swath of destruction behind, Robert becomes a chaotic force and truly a movie villain for all ages. That is Rubber.
That is Rubber.
And the fact that his name is Robert.
And it kind of sounds like rubber. Yeah.
A little bit. I don't know. It bothers me a little bit.
No. It's that kind of clever wordplay that you need to expect from this movie.
I thought it was cute.
Yeah. The DVD synopsis plays up a beautiful and mysterious woman. And I don't know if you guys were as drawn into the love story as I was.
There was a love story going on?
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Love at first sight. Robert.
He tried to blow her up.
No, he didn't.
Oh, I swear he tried to blow her up.
No, he was chasing her down the road because he wanted to meet her. And then he ends up peeping on her in the shower, but doesn't kill her because he loves her. And even then, when the mannequin is outside of his house, after he's like a recluse with the 3-year time jump, and they use the girl's voice to try to lure him out to blow her up, he still won't do it because he hears her voice. Maybe I'm just a romantic at heart. I don't know.
I think you
guys
are.
Missed it. Yeah.
Danielle, was this a romantic comedy?
I thought in the beginning when he sees her car, he tries to blow her up, but then that other truck drives by or whatever, and then he gets thrown off the road.
No, because he's just chasing her. He's just rolling after her. He's not shaking at that point.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Sure, Ben.
I'm not sure it's a romance for the ages, but I'll take it. He clearly liked her.
I mean, in that way, this movie reminds me a lot of Shape of Water. Like, it's this forbidden love with a wordless being. Like, it is a love story for the ages. And I'm sad that you guys didn't see that, because the only thing Robert couldn't destroy was the wall that she put up between them. His telepathic powers couldn't knock that down.
The physical hotel wall? Or
no, like the emotional wall.
Yes, I felt that from her in her deep character dive that they did of her character.
She definitely noticed him every time she walked past him. And I'm sorry, Ben, I love that you are going super deep with this all, but the fact that it was already so weird and bizarre, I just don't think there was any meaning behind it at all. I think it was just as weird as it possibly could be for, as they say in the beginning, no fucking reason. And I love that about this movie. I think it's so silly and bizarre. Yes, there were moments that I'm going to complain about later, but the fact that someone had this mental capacity of putting together a short story, probably, or one throwaway idea, and then suddenly create such a elaborately designed movie with a very simple premise, it's just insanity.
Honestly, what this movie reminded me of was either a Tim and Eric-esque sketch on their show, or a Too Many Cooks. You know, one of those odd Adult Swim late night weird things where it's like, what? Did I turn the channel to something halfway through and I just have no idea? Nope. You just came into it exactly where everybody else did, and you have no idea what's going on. And it just keeps piling on the weird.
And that weird starts right off the bat with one of my favorite gags of the movie, which is the car pulling up and hitting every single chair for no reason. Like, that got me laughing right off the bat. And I was like, okay, let's see where this is going, because you got me.
I definitely said out loud, yeah, you get those mean old chairs.
Yeah.
And then the car stops and the guy climbs out of the trunk and you're like,
I know.
Why?
Right.
No reason.
No reason.
No.
And gets into that fantastic monologue talking about, first off, Ben's favorite movie of all time.
Yep. E.T.
And then finishing by holding this glass of water and dumping it and then crawling back into the trunk. You know, whatever the fuck is happening, I think it definitely gets the audience either interested or ready to leave. You know, it's one extreme or the other.
It definitely preps you for something.
It definitely does prep you for something. Do you feel like the thing that it prepped you for is what it delivered?
Yeah, you know, another thing it kind of reminds me of is like a David Lynch fever dream. I'll say that too. So yeah, I think it kind of delivered on that. It was just too odd for words.
What do you mean by a David Lynch fever dream?
David Lynch is known kind of to do very unusual, odd movies that kind of have that like what's going on dreaminess to it. Google or YouTube some clips from like Twin Peaks, his hit show he did in the late 80s, early 90s. You'll get an idea. Like people having dreams of a midget that talks backwards and he's giving information to our lead characters. Just weird, odd stuff like that.
The reason I ask if it delivered on the wackiness that it promised is, even though this movie's 82 minutes, it was too fucking long.
It was too long.
I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely texted Ben and said, hey, I think this short film needed to be shorter. Like, it needed to be an actual short film.
Yeah.
I think it definitely could have done a lot more of an impact with like a 11 to 15 minute runtime. I know that might be extreme, but the idea didn't really have a place to go, in my opinion. It was enough, but it just dragged. There were moments that were just, okay, why is this happening? No reason, but let's cram in a bunch more as fast as we can, but then like spread them out, if that makes sense.
I don't know if about 11 to 15 minutes, that seems really short, because you really have two movies going on in this movie. You have Robert the Tire's kind of arc, if you will, his the deep character study of him and his revenge plot. It reminded me a lot of John Wick in that way, just the way that he kind of was, you know, constantly moving towards his end goal.
I don't know if he had an end goal at first, Ben, but sure.
Well, he clearly did, because he ends up in Hollywood.
Okay.
Once he sees the massacre of Tires, he develops this bloodlust to really take vengeance, just like John Wick did.
Yep, that's John Wick.
But then you also have the film within a film stuff with the audience that's up in the mountains, watching everything happening with Robert from binoculars. And I feel like the stuff with the guy getting out of the trunk, that is all tied into the audience and less so with Robert, and the two kind of blend together then in a way. And I don't think you can remove one and have the other stand alone as an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way that you just told our listeners about the movie within a movie. we're talking about like this murderous tire, and they're like, oh, and by the way.
You're right.
Let's just also talk about this. Danielle, did this remind you of anything?
The movie remind me of anything?
Yeah, I mean, you've unfortunately suffered through a lot of weird stuff with us and with Sam. I mean, we had Next. We had this movie.
Southland Tales.
Probably reminded me more of Southland Tales than Next, I guess. So I could see Nick Cage in this movie. Just Southland Tale. It actually reminded me a lot of Southland Tale just because it is so nonsensical in a lot of ways. Or it has a plot. It's trying to have a plot a little bit, but at the same time is trying to be nonsensical. And I think that's an interesting combination of things. And Southland Tales did something very similar to that.
I don't know if I had anything that it made me think of as I'm watching it, besides just the filmmaking itself, where how they shot it. It reminded me of just really excellent filmmaking that we've seen on the show. Like, I know the desert look to it made me think of some of the Westerns that we've seen, although I'm going to be honest, I didn't love most of the Westerns that we've seen. But it had that classical feel to it. a lot of nuances, and so it made me think of really successful films.
Yeah.
I can't pick anyone in particular. It just like it had that quality that made me think about really excellent filmmaking and cinematography.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of The Fugitive. You know, like Robert is our Richard Kimball in this, and the cops are chasing him down. Only they can't catch him, but only it's this epic chase from start to finish of them trying to stop Robert from killing him. But Robert doesn't feel like he's doing anything wrong because it's his God-given right to kill. You know what I'm saying?
I like that they can't catch him. He's a tire.
They can't catch him. No.
Was anyone disappointed that like the powers he had were the mind powers and he just didn't like rev up real fast and like
like
run
a
over
Sonic the
things?
Hedgehog?
Yeah, basically. I was a little disappointed with that because I definitely expected him after he was going over that beer bottle to just be like, I'm just going to rev myself up and then
Which, wow, talk about a metaphor for alcoholism, right?
oh my God.
Incredible.
That it's a hard thing to break.
Yeah,
it's a hard thing to break.
You know, you try to get over it. You keep trying, and eventually you really just have to shatter it to really move past it. And it was just, it got to me. I don't know.
You got to break that bottle and just roll on over it, baby.
Yeah.
Ben, you are just cramming this movie with metaphors that do not exist.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Danielle, did you read any information about interviews from the director like I did?
No, I did do some research, but I didn't come across that. What did the director say?
The director literally wrote this for fun.
I mean, what? Yeah.
There's no meaning behind it whatsoever. And I hate to disappoint you, Ben, but like literally people have put tons and tons of meaning into every single part, from killing the audience. Sorry, everyone, spoilers. This whole episode obviously is going to be filled with them because we can't talk about this movie without telling you what actually happens. It's ridiculous. To making heads blow up through a psychokinetic, right? That's the word that they use.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, psychokinetic tire. Or, you know, having him turn into a tricycle at the end. It means fucking nothing. He just went nuts.
I disagree.
Whoa, yeah.
Disagree.
Big hands.
Throwing death of the author out there. The author's intent holds no special weight in interpreting anything that's there. It doesn't matter what the director saw. It's what we, the audience, see.
Yeah, and I see nothing.
Well, then you're not looking close enough.
Can I introduce something here what that tricycle represents? Emily?
Sure, absolutely.
It's the Holy Trinity.
Okay? Absolutely it is.
Stop.
You've got
absolutely
the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And what is that tricycle going to take down with his followers? Hollywood. The godless heathens of Hollywood.
Wow, this really became super religious. It's just like Southland Tales, right, Danielle?
It is. It's very deep.
Oh my God. Well then, Danielle, did you find any meaning in this movie? Since these two fuckers found some sort of semblance of a meaning.
Their meaning in this movie. I think the most obviously meaningful part of this movie is when he sees all the tires being burned. That felt like it was trying to say something, and then I was like, wow, 80% of the way through this movie, you're trying to say something? I don't. Like, he just seemed suddenly motivated by that.
It's just the motivation for the ending. Like, that's all Robert needed to see to push him over the edge.
And kill all the humans for destroying the tires.
Yeah.
I that was my takeaway from that movie, is that he was on a revenge plan to destroy humanity because they had destroyed him and thrown him away.
So what does the first 80% of the movie mean?
It is a coming of age story.
Yes. Danielle. Danielle, absolutely it is.
You can tell by the music in the beginning when he's rolling down the desert.
But also, look, remember when he first got up? He had to crawl.
He's learning to walk.
He couldn't just walk. He had to crawl, Emily.
Okay, Ben, you're going to love this. So in this interview, the director specifically talked about how when Robert is coming to be awake and kind of having his personality shown and these nuances kind of being really intricate and showing up slowly, he calls it the Wally moment and the Wally scene. And I was like, shit, Ben's going to love that.
Yeah, I do.
'Cause,
Absolutely.
you know, you hate Wall-E so much.
Danielle, I'm glad you got as much out of this movie as I did and Dylan did. Emily.
Yep.
Sorry, Emily.
Emily's just a bit of a plebe, I guess.
Yep.
Oh my God. Sure. Well, whatever. I am really glad, though, that my weird brain seems somewhat normal now. Because the shit that I come up with sometimes with my plot synopsis predictions, this definitely made me feel a little bit better about my brain. So sure, I got some meaning out of it by going, yeah, I'm weird, but I can keep going to be weird.
But you're not that weird.
Sure.
You can push it further.
How about we push our way into the good, bad, and the weird and talk about who won this movie?
Well, I already mentioned it. The Wall-E scene. Just generally the practical effects with the tire and just how he came to be. It was really sweet until he started murdering things, you know? Even when that first moment of him just trying to start rolling and then he would fall over and then roll a little bit more and then fall over. And then the first moment of him going over the water bottle and it just making those light sounds. I love that there was no music. I loved how they added kind of a childlike innocence, wonder, and then also the childlike destruction that we see. So I felt like it packed in a lot, and that was probably my favorite part of the movie. Also, how fucking cool is it that they made a remote control tire?
Yeah.
Oh, is that how they did it?
Yeah.
You know, I walk into I don't read a whole lot of the stuff behind the scene. I love behind the scenes stuff, but with I love hearing it from you guys, like how they did some of these special effects. Because honestly, when I was watching it, I was like, how did they do some of this stuff? It looked pretty awesome.
My winner is Robert's performance in this, and you know, it's a wordless role, but like I always knew exactly what he was thinking. Like he'd shake with rage and he would stare with desire, and he was like incredulous to the unknown and yet decisive in his action, which I really appreciated. And I do want to call out one specific scene, which is one of my favorites, and it's the one where Robert's talking with the motel owner's son. That's incredible. Two masters of the craft going toe to toe. It's amazing. Like you could feel every ounce of feeling that they were experiencing, like pulsate through the screen directly into your heart and soul and mind. Like it was a touching moment. It reminded me a lot of like some of the great scenes in like Casablanca or Gone with the Wind or The Godfather. Like we're talking the peak of cinema here.
Mm-hmm. I'd go also On the Waterfront, that scene with Marlon Brando and his brother. I could have been a contender.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wow. This movie reminds us of so many great things. Thank you, Robert.
Reminds you of so many great things.
For me, the winner here, I got to go with the direction and the cinematography. To be honest, I thought this movie was pretty well shot for being pretty stupid, you know, for being kind of a nonsensical movie. It was shot very, very well. And, you know, you couldn't get that emotion out of Robert without good camera work and good cinematography. And without that, you were, you know, Robert would just have been a tire. And here he was, a tire with emotion, with feelings and anger. And he had to take it out on somebody.
That poor scorpion.
Yeah, wow.
That poor bunny.
Felt bad for the bunny.
Oh my God, I laughed so hard when the bunny exploded and the needle drop happened. Oh my God.
The needle drop was killer.
So excellent.
And wasn't the song like I Don't Want to Be Lonely? Like, how did you not get the romance part? Because that's the song that's playing in the car with the woman.
Okay, you all should be able to hear my eye roll right now.
I really liked the music. That was my
I
win.
loved it too, but like reading into
Emily,
shit.
I'm going to have to start you early here and get you a book of dot-to-dot drawings because you're just not connecting the dots of this movie.
Very funny. Danielle, who won?
I honestly think the music won for me.
Yeah?
It was really well chosen. I really enjoyed the jaunty flute music that was playing as he started his journey into tirehood. And and then the finale song was also good. Like there were just a lot of good song choices, and when the songs came in and what was being played, I feel like it really added a layer that made it kind of seem like some weird folksy, like I said, coming of age story, which is I'm not trying to give it depth it doesn't have. I'm just saying the music really did add a layer to it, an otherwise kind of silly movie.
Right. Yeah, I also really enjoyed the music. There's only one part of it that I felt was really jarring, but generally I thought it was really interesting. And Ben, didn't you say that the director composed the music too?
Yep.
God damn it. Such incredible work by our director. Did anyone pick him? No? Okay.
We picked cinematography. That was him.
Oh, yeah, that was him. Okay, cool. And I guess, Danielle, you picked music, so that was him too.
Apparently.
But then also the practical effects in this movie. Like, I appreciated the heads exploding and the animals exploding. Like, it looked cheap and silly, and that's what this movie should look like.
Right.
So I liked that, and I really liked the stuff with the tire. Like, anytime they show the tire just rolling, I'm like, I could just watch this tire roll all day. I love the little shaking effect, like the wobble they put on him when he's trying to blow up. Like, oh, that's 90% of the action of this movie, and I enjoyed it every time they did it.
Yeah, part of the little movements, they said like that was a puppeteer, essentially just taking two fingers and just like shifting it slightly to give it motion. And I just thought that was the most adorable thing that I thought about doing. I was like, that's my job. I want that job.
Yeah, I agree with what you said earlier. It's kind of like a childlike wonder at the idea, particularly at the beginning, like, oh, I can blow stuff up. This is awesome. Like, I just had that like kid vibe at the beginning, and then obviously he gets kind of more and more angry throughout the film. But
what did you guys think of the comedy in this movie?
The amount of times my sister laughed her ass off next to me, and I would also just laugh my ass off in random moments. I don't even remember some of them. Like, one of them was just the Chad, I think his name was, the police officer and director. I don't remember. Anyway, he's talking to the guy saying like, this isn't real, shoot me in the chest and everything. And then he talks to one guy and says, you have a stuffed alligator under your arm. and I'm sitting there going, and the camera slowly goes down and I'm expecting him to go, oh my God, where did that come from? But no, his response is, so?
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going, shit, what the fuck is this? And, I really, really did love the tire watching TV, especially the exercise video, jazzercise shit. I thought that was so fucking funny. I couldn't stop laughing at those moments.
I almost kind of thought in the scene where it's what the Robert is watching NASCAR, if they would have gotten like an accident in one of the videos and have him like moving like he was really excited, like the tires are coming off the car and like going after people or something weird. Weird. Then he's excited for the crashes. I thought that would have been really funny, but yeah, that was a funny scene.
I really like I forget who comes. It's the maid. The maid comes into his room and she looks at the bed and there's tire tracks on the sheets. That made me laugh. I really like that. The guy coming back to poison the audience member who didn't eat the turkey.
Oh my gosh.
I loved that entire scene, and then he ends up eating it himself and dying and not understanding why.
You were supposed to eat it.
Yeah.
When he's eating that, I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
right.
It's poisoned. You brought it for him.
And also how he's giving like his life story about like, and that's when I figured out about my brother, and I took this big rock and I just walked over and then, oh God. This is so weird.
And then the part where they're trying to get Robert to kill the mannequin, and they're like enticing him, and they're like, you're just a rubber shit. You're a rubber shit.
The dialogue in that I know was supposed to be awful, but it made it so funny.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the girl comments on how shit it is. Ugh, so great. Danielle, did you have any favorite humorous parts that we haven't said yet?
I'll be honest, I think this movie probably would have been more fun in a group setting, or at least with one other person.
I totally agree.
But I smiled at things. I didn't actually laugh out loud at anything, but I did find scenes amusing. It wasn't like a belly laugh for me. I really did like the scene with the girl commenting on her lines, as we just remarked. And the scene where the cop is trying to explain to everybody that they're living in a like they're all playing straight men, and he's trying like, no, it's done, we're finished. Like let's move on. Like that whole scene was pretty funny.
I like the scene going on with the exploding mannequin. How the last living watcher of the movie like pounds on. He's like, so what's with the mannequin? Why are you? It's like, so we can trick him. He's like, yeah, I get that, but why? Why are you? I just thought that was so. Yeah, that's one thing the movie kept coming back to was, this movie makes no sense, so try not to make any sense of it. And even that character, halfway through the movie, is trying to explain to everybody, none of this makes sense. So he completely forgets about that. Nothing of this makes sense.
I know in a movie this great, it's going to be hard to pick out some bad.
Oh my God, shut up,
Let's
Ben.
try to find a couple things that maybe we didn't like so much.
For me, one of my favorite little characters to see was Fat Neil from Community. And I was very sad to see him go. I thought his character was going to be much larger in this film. Boo on you for killing Fat Neil.
It's just Neil.
Yeah. Why isn't the other one called Black Neil?
Oh my God.
In a movie of no-name actors and the guy from Community, the blonde teenage girl was especially awful and deserves to be called out for being so terrible.
Really?
Her line readings were just hideous. And it's not like any of these actors, other than Robert, deserve an Oscar. But she especially was just tough to watch.
I know that we were talking about how there's no rhyme or reason or semblance of any reason for us to really understand what's going on. But I did not like the whole aspect of Chad trying to explain to everyone that this wasn't real anymore, that they were done. I felt like it made my brain hurt, where I really was thinking and trying to come up with some sort of connections. And so I didn't like that. And maybe it's more weird than bad, but I thought that could have been a really interesting way to dive deeper into that. But these people were seriously embedded in what was happening, and everything was real. And so I'm sitting there going, wait, are things real? I don't understand what's happening. How are you not dead? Like, what is happening with this movie? I do not get it.
You're not supposed to.
The woman's actually dead.
No, she's not. Give her a good slap. You'll see.
She has no head.
She's cold. How cold?
And so there were parts where I kind of lost interest in spots. You know, there were lulls, and I know we mentioned that the movie was too long for 82 minutes. But around the 37-minute mark, I don't even remember what happened there, but it might have been that moment, honestly. Like, yes, there were funny parts to it. When we kept going back to the audience viewing with binoculars, there were funny parts, kind of, but generally I didn't think it was as necessary as the rest of the plot.
I think for me, we already talked about it, but for me, I think the runtime was just the hardest part of the movie. It just felt like it could have been a much more tight film. There was a lot of time spent with the tire just rolling around, and well, as interesting as that practical effect is, I don't need to see 45 minutes of it. Like, I could see it condense down to a good, 15, 20 minutes.
So what else would you think needed to change then? I mean, obviously you can't cut all of the tire stuff because Ben loves it.
You're gonna lose.
I don't think you need to cut
all
all of it, because it is fun to watch him kind of roll around and have it felt like it was moving forward. And I don't mean that as a pun. I mean that quite level story moving forward, I guess, when he was on the move. It felt like we spent a really long time in the hotel. I know that's where a lot of the action takes place, but it did feel like it just kind of dragged while we were there.
I think I agree with you on that, Danielle, that they could have probably cut some of the scene of the instructor or whatever his character kind of was that gave them the turkey and everything, like how he was playing with his shoes and answered his phone. Like, that scene just felt too long for me. I just was like, I'm not laughing at this. I'm not seeing any humor in this. And the weird phone conversation of like, yes, master, no, master. Did this really need to be there? Like you did need the phone call, but it didn't need to be nearly as long of a scene as it was.
Oh, well, I hear you're bad and choose to ignore them. So let's move on to the weird.
Honestly, the only really weird part that made me have to just kind of pause the movie for a minute and go, what? Was the whole turkey thing. It started with the turkey being in the hotel room. And I'm like, what the fuck? There's a turkey here. It was the same kind of feeling as when the alligator under his arm showed up, you know? Like, what? What's happening? And then, oh, okay, it's dead. You just heard it die. And then watching all the people just attack this turkey and eat it, I'm sitting there just not able to look away at how fucking weird this is. And then, of course, we get the realization that, you know, everyone's dead and everything. But that's kind of what broke me. I felt like it was so over the top ridiculous that it broke me, where I love weird shit.
I thought it was a commentary on humanity, because then one guy looks over at him and is like, animals. I was like, that's exactly what I thought it was.
And that's the thing I hated about it the most, because then they're like, we're going to add meaning to this. And I'm like, nuh-uh. There's no meaning.
You're so wrong.
You're so wrong.
I think for me, it was actually, and maybe I just missed something. It's entirely possible, because I zoned out a few times because the movie's longer than it needs to be. But I didn't understand, and there could be no reason for it. I didn't understand the motivation of killing off all the audience members. That came out of left field for me. I was like, they're trying to end it. And I felt like there was an explanation, but I didn't understand what it was.
No, that's it. They didn't have an ending. So they're like, we're going to end it by killing the audience.
That was their plan from the get-go?
That's so stupid.
Why did they even do the movie in the first place with the audience? Why even have an audience?
Well, why make a movie at all?
Did they sign their life away on a piece of paper before they went into the desert to watch the movie?
So many questions. Why binoculars?
It's just such an odd setup. And then, like, I don't know, a quarter of the way through the movie, they're just like, just kidding, no audience, just this one dude. Like, it's all you get.
There was nothing so weird that it took me out of this movie. I was fully into this movie. I was ready for any weirdness that they threw at me. The sight of the turkey did give me a moment of pause where I'm like, where is this going with this turkey? But then once they revealed what it was for, I was all on board.
I think that generally this movie makes more sense in what it was trying to achieve when you finish it. Because while it's happening, I was just along for the ride for sure, but also I was overwhelmed with the amount of questions I had. And I felt like they were pretty much answered by the end of it superficially. I could dive really deep, but I think that's part of it, that's why everything was so weird, because I just really had no idea what was happening.
Let's put a cork in this thing and give our final thoughts on Rubber. And we're going to start with Danielle.
That's hard, you guys.
Start with Dylan.
Okay, let's go with Dylan.
Honestly, I'll say, like with the movie Boy, this was a movie when it ended, I was kind of like, I don't know how I should feel about this. If I should hate this or love this or laugh at this or what. I really didn't understand. But now sitting and talking about it, I gotta say, even if the director had zero intention with the premises we've come up with and the metaphors and what everything means, I think that is really kind of funny and makes the movie more enjoyable. So just sitting and talking about it made the movie a lot better for me. And I'd probably watch it again just to kind of think about those thoughts of stuff we've talked about here and really try to see, is it really there? Or are we just pulling stuff out to be funny?
Nope, this movie's an onion. It's got layers.
Okay, Shrek.
Danielle, back to you.
I would agree that I think this movie's actually funnier when I'm talking about it with other human beings besides myself alone in my house. And I'm like, what is this? I will give it props because, as I said, I honestly did kind of feel like it was a coming of age story for the Tire. I was not just like messing with you, Emily. Like it really kind of had that feeling and that arc. Like that's what they were trying to do with it. So I'll give it props for that. And I also think sometimes I watch really odd or weird movies and I come away from the experience feeling uncomfortable and like I need a palate cleanser at the end to watch something else and not go to bed on that movie. And I did not feel like that with this one. You know, it was just weird. And I was like, well, that was an experience that I had. And I guess I'm glad for it. I would not recommend it to other people. So, you know, solid effort in the weird movie category. I will give it some thumbs up, I guess.
Emily?
I love your description of that, Danielle. I guess I can accept the fact that looking back on it, it does feel coming of age-y. I can accept that. I don't think I accept a lot of the other forceful metaphors that Ben was coming up with. But I think this movie definitely answered a lot of the superficial questions, but made me question things on a really deep level. Like, do tires sleep? Like, that was my big question that I had. And I think that I would love to watch this with a group of friends, just hanging out in a casual setting where we don't actually have to talk much, or we could talk and ignore the movie. But I don't know. I don't think I'm going to watch it again. I liked it. I liked a lot of parts of it, but as a whole, I thought it was okay.
A good movie tells you a story and gets you invested in characters and plot, and a great movie allows you to question reality and see yourself on the screen. So, Emily, you see a tire up there, and I see myself. Like, I fall over when I get tired. I drink when I get thirsty. I break things when I'm upset. Robert is all of us, just trying to make his way through the world as best he can, learning to walk, learning who he is and what his place in the world is, learning the power that he has over his surroundings. This movie is a coming-of-age story. It's a story of revenge, lust, spirituality. It's a triumph of the human spirit in tire form. This movie reminds me a lot of Schindler's List, in that I don't ever need to watch it again. 4 out of 10 stars.
I was just about to ask if anyone felt like you were being sincere or not.
But I hate that I didn't disagree with some of that stuff.
What's your favorite idea? Mine is being creative.
How do you get that idea?
I just tried to think creatively.
We're gonna play some Twilight. Number 1. Exactly. Robert the Tire did a lot of mundane things. You know, he took a shower, he slurped a puddle, he watched TV and went swimming. I have to know, what everyday activity did you really want to see Robert do in this movie with their practical effects?
I feel like we missed out on an epic sex scene.
Oh god. Oh my god. I don't even know what noise that was. I'm sorry.
With a human?
Yeah, with the human. His love interest, obviously. That's how this movie should have ended. He goes to Hollywood because that's where she is. And he wins her over with an impassioned, I won't say a speech, but just an amount of passion in the way that he shook for her.
I think we should be concerned that Ben thinks that sex is a mundane task.
I mean, when you get so good at something, it just becomes like riding a bicycle.
Oh, fuck.
Or a tricycle.
Or a tricycle.
I'll go next. I would love to see Robert the Tire after his one evening in the hotel, turning in his continental breakfast voucher and going through the line and getting so annoyed with that one guy who just can't make the waffle just right, and then doing what we've all wanted to do with that guy and blow up his head just so you can get in the front of the line to get that waffle.
Amazing.
I want to see him, push that little thing in to get his cereal.
Turning that knob 40 times, getting 5 frosted flakes at a time.
Yep.
I hear you.
Eating those odd, way too yellow omelets that they have sitting in the steamer tray, and getting excited about a continental breakfast, which really is nothing to get excited about.
I'm not complaining.
Related, I want to see him go grocery shopping and push around a cart and make like a sandwich. I just want to see him do something with opposable thumbs, but not have opposable thumbs. Like, I need that in my life.
Number 2, we have Robert the Tricycle reincarnated for Robert the tire that got shot to death. But what is Robert the Tricycle going to do next with his tire army in Hollywood?
I thought it was clear that he was destroying humanity.
Oh, see, I have an answer and I'm really excited. So I had to ask.
Is he not destroying humanity? Is that not what he's doing? Because I really just thought that was the story arc of this. Coming of age, destruction of humanity, the end. Tires take over the world. No.
I think they end up making tire versions of the greatest Hollywood hits. It's all tire-based remakes. like my name here today, 3 Tired, 3 Furious.
Is that like Cats Don't Dance? Has anybody seen that animated film besides me?
I don't think I have.
They do all these movies with animals. At the end of it, they show you the little like film clips of all the now famous actors, and they're all
totally
like animals, and
this.
they are starring in like Gone with the Wind or whatever, but they're like a hippo. I assume it's the same concept.
Robert and his crew proceed to go Entourage style to every single studio, pitching his story, hopefully to get his life story made into a major motion picture.
It
called
already is
Rubber.
a major motion picture.
Oh, going super meta.
Like movie inside a movie inside a movie.
The film.
This is the biopic of him making his way to Hollywood.
Okay, I really hate that Dylan kind of took my answer, but really what I wanted it to be was a whole Muppet movie spinoff with tires. Like, that's what I wanted it to be. They all go to Hollywood and they're like, we want to be famous. So they make their own song that they sing, but it's done through like how they move and just like hitting different things because they can't actually sing.
So this is a musical? You're envisioning
Basically,
a musical?
yeah.
Yes,
Definitely.
I'm on board. Let's do Emily's version of Rubber, the musical.
All right, number 3. Tell us how this homicidal object goes around killing the human race. So would you rather have someone pick one for you or you to randomly select one from me?
Let's just do random.
Okay, sounds good. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
All right, Ben, tell us how this homicidal object goes about killing the human race. You're going to choose a number 1 through 6.
5.
Ben, tell us how a feather duster goes around killing the human race.
Oh, I have a good one for that.
I mean, if you've ever been around me when I sneeze, they're violent. And feather duster is going to kill you by making you sneeze. It's going to get all up in your nostrils, invade your personal space, and force you to just violently sneeze until you literally sneeze out a part of you.
Oh, God. What part of you? Your brain?
Part of your brain, yeah.
Hard pass.
Pretty dark. Pretty dark. Danielle or Dylan?
I'll go.
All right, Danielle, 1 through 6, but not 5.
3.
A pinwheel. One of those, like...
The ones
you know
that little kids play with that the air blows on
spin.
and it has different colors.
Yeah.
Okay, those are surprisingly sharp. And so I think that I honestly think it would just attack you. Like, it would go straight into your face. It would like spin its little self and it would just like cut you to shreds. Like, that is how it would destroy you. And it would just cut you until you were like skin and bones and dead on the ground. And then maybe get inside of you and spin some more just to make sure that you're real dead on the ground. Like, they are not nice, pinwheels.
Wow.
And they also might have some kind of power to like shoot off their little spinny part and at you and then come back to its core little stick.
Ooh.
And I also think it would use the stick as like a plunger to get into your vital organs once it's torn open your skin and get inside.
Wow, you went
Danielle.
dark, and I love it.
It's destroying humanity with a pinwheel.
Okay, Dylan, what number?
Let's go number 2.
Rubik's Cube.
The Rubik's Cube will take over the world by making everybody go insane, by making it completely and utterly unsolvable. that when people believe that they have gotten that final twist to it, oh no, those colors change and it's all back to where it started. And you got to keep going and going and going until you've forgotten how to eat, sleep, defecate, everything. You will be basically you will forget your life will become nothingness, and you will be lobotomized and you will die by the hands of the Rubik's Cube.
Mine was dark.
You had me on forgetting to eat and sleep, but forgetting to defecate.
Because you're so consumed by the cube.
That you forget how to defecate?
That you forget to defecate. I'll change that. You forget to go to because you just need to beat it.
I think eventually it's just going to come out of your body whether you want it to or not, I'll be honest.
Shall we play a game? I despise guessing games.
This great game. Makes you think and it helps your memory.
Let the games begin.
Okay. Everyone gets to play today's game, and my game is called Give Me a Reason. So I'm going to give you unanswerable questions and pose them to the entire group. And you guys let's talk through it. Let's try to come up with an answer. So your first question is, if you punch yourself and it hurts, are you weak or are you strong?
You're both.
No, I disagree. You're 100% strong because it's okay to feel pain when you're strong. Only the weak hide their pain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, good job, Emily.
I like that. Thank you, Emily.
I'm going to quote the great Patrick Swayze in the movie Roadhouse. Pain don't hurt. So by punching yourself, you are stronger because pain don't hurt. It's all mental, baby.
The line is pain don't hurt?
Pain don't hurt.
Wow. Another movie worse than Rubber.
Classic, though.
Yeah. Okay. If Cinderella's shoe fit perfectly, then why did it fall off?
I mean, she was running down some stairs. Even if things fit perfectly, they do fall off. There's no straps on the sucker.
Did you know, Ben, that feet are the sweatiest part of your body?
Not right now. For me, they're not.
For fairy tale princesses, it's the feet. They're the sweatiest part of the body.
I can see that.
It fell off because of fate.
Oh,
I know. It's a fairy tale, you guys. It's fate.
Just like Robert meeting the mysterious woman.
Yeah, it's fated. It was a romance for the ages. Both Cinderella and Rubber said, only me ever.
Which orange came first, the fruit or the color?
Shit. Why is this really wrinkling my brain?
I think the fruit came first, but then somebody discovered the fruit and was like, no, we're going to call that orange. And also this thing over here, this weird thing we don't have a name for, that's this nice little color, we're going to call that orange too.
So they happen simultaneously?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh, that's weird. These two things look a lot alike, but they're different things. But let's call them the same thing, just for clarity's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now fundamentally, I'm wondering about like how we decided on colors and naming conventions for colors. And I'm now thinking I'm going in a dark, deep place of philosophy, trying to think about the origin of languages. But my gut instinct is saying the fruit orange was first. I have no reason for that other than my gut. So there is a reason. It's my gut.
Why is Goofy considered a person and Pluto considered a pet when they're both dogs?
Pluto has a tail. Goofy does not.
You've seen his butt?
Is that canon?
I've never seen a tail on Goofy. Have you?
I figured it was snipped.
Oh, so you're thinking, it was docked?
Does it make you humanistic if you get a dock tail? Like it turns you into a sentient being.
Okay.
Emily just searched Rule 34 Goofy.
So Goofy. So just to picture this in my head, Goofy's woo, 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 and then they dock his tail. He goes gorsh, and he starts talking.
He used to have a tail.
There you go.
Oh, whatever.
So they got rid of it probably because Pluto was a dog and they had to separate it. So that's probably why.
Maybe they're different species.
Ooh.
Where one is like hierarchically higher.
Yeah, like apes and
evolution.
Humans,
one
like
took
evolutionarily. Maybe it's
one
just
took a different
up.
evolutionary turn.
I love it.
I like that idea. Yeah. If a cyclops were to close its eye, is it winking or blinking?
I'm gonna assume it's winking because that's weird.
Yeah, I'm always gonna assume it's winking.
I'm gonna go with context clues. But depending on what it said after that, and then it blinks.
But no, it's funnier if it's always winking.
The context is even funnier.
What was the first man to milk a cow really trying to do?
Oh,
I don't want to know.
And why did this question assume it was a man?
Because it obviously was. I don't know why that was a given.
Titties.
Now let's all agree to never be creative again.
Thank you for playing the game today. I appreciate your answers to these unanswerable questions.
They weren't that hard.
No, piece of cake.
We're really glad that we got to experience talking about rubber with each other and talk about some really interesting, creative games and questions. I don't know where the fuck I'm going with this. Anyway, next week we are watching Easy A, which I haven't seen since high school, I don't think. With some of our friends from When Cinephiles Attack. So that should be a fun one.
Yay.
I'll listen to that episode for sure.
And before we get into goodbyes, Dylan, slight pivot, your next episode you're on is The Wheel of Trash. Woo! So you are spinning the wheel today, and added in today is one that says Danielle's choice, because if it lands on Danielle, she gets to pick which movie we're doing. On the Wheel of Trash are the following movies: Percy Jackson, The Last Airbender, Jonah Hex, Skyline, Grown Ups, The Tourist, Valentine's Day, Clash of the Titans, Gulliver's Travels, and Prince of Persia. And then our choice one, you either get to choose between Furry Vengeance or Marmaduke if you land on the choice. There's also my choice, Emily's choice, Danielle's choice, and your choice, Dylan. So, Danielle, you tell me when, and I will hit that spin button.
All right, go.
Whoa, so excited!
No whammy, no whammy, no whammy.
Come on.
Big money, big money.
What's coming up?
Oh, shit.
We are watching Skyline.
Wow.
Woof.
Which is, I believe it's an alien invasion movie.
Yeah, I've seen it too.
Oh.
Excellent. Yeah.
I'm actually really excited to see this now then.
Great. So next time Dylan's on, we'll be watching Skyline.
All right.
Danielle, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you coming on. Why don't you plug Book Retorts before you go?
Okay, everybody, I'm plugging Book Retorts. It's a great podcast where one of us explains a weird piece of media to the other person who has no experience with it, except recently we've done a run of Hyperion, which I do have experience with every week, but I don't know where it's going because it's nonsense. And you can check us out at bookretorts.com or interact with us on social media at Book Retorts. That's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're all over the place. So feel free to come chat with Sam or me. We're awesome, if I do say so myself. And yeah, check us out.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to everyone who listened. Please like, rate, subscribe, share us with a friend or two. You can follow us on social media at IDYP_podcast on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email us at idrinkyourpodcast@gmail.com. And before we have you go, Danielle, I know Robert the Tire didn't talk in this movie, but let's say he did. Give us your impression of Robert the Tire saying, "I drink your podcast, I drink it up."
What if I just don't say anything because he didn't talk? I don't know what Robert would sound like.
Tires spoke, what would they sound like?
I think they'd whisper, because I don't think they could talk very loud.
Okay.
So, I drink your podcast. I drink it up.
Beautiful.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
I love you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye, y'all.